endangering an aircraft in the first degree. Counts 2 through 84, recklessly endangering restitution, $59,000 to Alaska Air Group. How do you plead?
No contest.
He said he had not slept for 40 hours or so, consumed magic mushrooms.
I still made the decision to take psilocybin. That led to my inability to determine that I was operating in reality.
2 years ago, 44-year-old Joseph David Emerson ate some psychedelic mushrooms, tripped for 40 hours, and then hopped a free flight on Alaska Airlines from Everett, Washington to San Francisco. It was free because Emerson was an off-duty pilot for Alaska Airlines, which meant he got to sit in the spare jump seat in the cockpit.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
It also meant that when Emerson went berserk, lunged forward and pulled the fire suppression handle covers up for both engines, were it not for the quick actions of both duty pilots, the aircraft, and all 84 people in it could have been lost. He still has federal charges pending, but the charges brought by the state of Oregon were settled at this hearing in Portland, where the flight made a safe emergency landing. Let's roll, nurse.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Eric Pickard for the state. PICKARD, bar number 154015. We're here in the matter of State of Oregon v. Joseph David Emerson, court case number 23CR 51764 for a change of plea.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Noah Horst, HORST 076089, with my colleagues, Mr. Levy and Ms. Van Duzen, on behalf of Joseph Emerson, who is prepared to change his plea pursuant to a plea agreement to one of no contest.
Okay, and I wanted to let counsel know that when I take the no contest plea, I'll be asking for a factual recitation from the state and whether there's a stipulation from the defense. So, Mr. Emerson, I'm looking at a plea petition that tells me that instead of going to trial in your case, you would like to plead no contest to count 1, endangering an aircraft in the first degree, and counts 2 through 84, recklessly endangering another person. Is that your understanding of what you're doing?
Yes.
And is that your signature on the petition?
Yes.
And did you understand everything that you reviewed in the paperwork with your attorneys?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the assistance that you've received from your attorneys?
Yes.
Have you had enough time and information to make your decision, and is this the way that you want to deal with your case?
Yes.
Are you feeling clear-headed, like you understand everything and making good decisions for yourself?
Yes, I am.
I will review with you the rights that you have to fight these charges at trial. There are the rights that you're giving up when you enter a plea instead of going to trial. The endangering in an aircraft in the first degree charge is a Class C felony that carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in custody and $125,000 in fines. And each of the recklessly endangering another person charges are Class A misdemeanors and carry a maximum sentence each of 364 days in jail and says here $5,000 in fines. Are you aware that's the maximum penalty that you face?
Yes, I am.
And I don't think there are any charges being dismissed, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
There is a joint agreement. You've entered into negotiations with the state, and that involves pleading or stipulating to a grid block of 8I, and this is the sentencing guidelines that apply in Oregon, and there's a presumptive prison sentence in the 8I grid block of 16 to 18 months. Did you understand that?
Yes.
And however, it's a stipulated downward departure from that presumptive sentence, from that presumptive prison sentence to 60 months formal probation. So did you understand that?
Yes.
And there are some special conditions that include a jail sentence, 50 days of jail with credit for time served, community service, 664 hours, which I understand to represent 8 hours for each of the passengers, and to be done at a minimum of 12 hours per month. Restitution, you're stipulating to causation and liability for restitution. Do these amounts reflect a final amount?
Your Honor, we're going to be asking to keep restitution open for 90 days past entry of judgment in the event another victim wishes to pursue restitution.
Okay. We can do that. In the meantime, the restitution that is already known is $59,608.25 to Alaska Air Group, $573 to Yvonne Millam, $387.88 to Anthony Wang. Did you understand those special conditions?
I do.
It's possible, potential that more restitution may be coming within the next 90 days. And if so, you are stipulating to causation and liability for that restitution in an amount to be ordered by the court. And you have a right to be present in court at any time the judge, the court signs a restitution order. You can talk to your attorney about, if that does happen, about whether you want to be present for that or whether you want to waive your presence for that. No entry into or within 25 feet of an operable airplane or multi-passenger aircraft without written PO approval. No use or possession of controlled substances except pursuant to a medical prescription, and comply with any and all supervisory orders as listed in United States versus Joseph David Emerson. When you plead no contest, you're not admitting that you're guilty, but you are acknowledging that if you did go to trial, a jury listening to the facts and applying the standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt could enter a finding of guilty. So are you aware that even though you're pleading no contest, once you're found guilty, it's the same as if you'd pled guilty or been found guilty at trial?
I understand that.
Has anyone made any threats or promises to get you to enter pleas to these charges?
No.
How do you plead to count one, endangering an aircraft in the first degree?
No contest.
And how do you plead in, I'm just going to say in all of the counts because they are each very similar. Of course, they're related to an individual person, but part of this plea agreement, I'm just going to ask, how do you plead to counts 2 through 84?
No contest.
Okay, and I'll hear a factual recitation from the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. On October 22nd, 2023, Joseph Emerson, an off-duty pilot, boarded Flight 2059 in Everett, Washington, bound for San Francisco. Emerson was deadheading and sitting in the cockpit's jump seat mid-flight when the aircraft was operating at an altitude around 30,000 feet. Mr. Emerson attempted to pull the red fire suppression handles in the overhead control panel. If activated, these handles would have shut down the hydraulics and the fuel to the engines and forced the aircraft to begin gliding. Fortunately, the pilot flying, First Officer Alan Koisel, and the pilot monitoring, Captain Emil Reamer, wrestled Emerson and prevented him from pulling the emergency handles all the way down. Mr. Emerson resisted at first, but eventually left the cockpit. Due to the quick reactions of the pilots, the lives of the 84 people on board, including Mr. Emerson, were saved. 11 of those people were under the age of 14. The flight was diverted to PDX. When Mr. Emerson was interviewed by law enforcement, he said he had not slept for 40 hours or so and admitted to having consumed magic mushrooms about 48 hours earlier. Mr. Emerson also admitted that he had been unwell before boarding the flight. A blood draw warrant was obtained and a sample of Mr. Emerson's blood was taken. After testing, the lab found no findings of toxicological significance. One note for the court to have a better understanding of this: one of the benefits that airline pilots have is being able to deadhead on flights, sit in a cockpit jump seat. But with that perk comes a responsibility. They have to be able and willing to take over to pilot in the event an emergency happens. This is something that all pilots know. It's something that Mr. Emerson knew. He was not well. He boarded that flight anyway and tried to pull on those levers.
Okay, and is there a stipulation that those facts submitted to a fact finder would support a finding of guilty?
Yes, Judge, we so stipulate.
Okay, I will accept the stipulation And also find that the facts stated into the record support a finding of guilty by a jury applying the standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And we'll make a finding that Mr. Emerson has entered his plea knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily. And we'll make a finding of guilty on each of the counts mentioned. Count 1, endangering an aircraft in the first degree, and each count of the recklessly endangering another person. And I understand you're ready to be sentenced today?
Yes.
Okay, anything additional from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. As we previously discussed, we have some victims in this case who I anticipated showing up via WebEx. I wasn't anticipating any victims showing up in person, but in the event that some have, I'd like to give them the opportunity to stand up, identify themselves, if they wish to make a statement. Doesn't appear there's anyone here in person. I'll do the same for any folks on WebEx. Any victims who wish to make a statement, please identify yourself and the judge will hear your statement.
Hi, I would like to make a statement, please. My name is Allison Snyder.
Yes.
Thank you. My husband, Stephen, and I were passengers on Alaska's Flight 2059 on October 22nd in 2023. The choices that Joseph Emerson made that day and the policies that allowed them nearly led to our deaths. My husband and I are neither judge nor jury, but the consequences proposed today seem insufficient relative to Mr. Emerson's choices and actions, regardless of his explanations or circumstances. After a weekend of hallucinogen use and emotional tumult and years of untreated health issues, Mr. Emerson used his privilege as a pilot to board Flight 2059 and sit in the cockpit, the only seat available to him on a full flight. Mr. Emerson knew he was not fit to fly, a requirement for sitting in the cockpit. He knew his seat came with a duty to crew and to passengers, and he knew he was not capable of upholding those responsibilities. He just wanted to get home to his family, he has said. We all know what that's like, to need the comfort of home, to do anything to get there. But could he have made a better choice that day? Could he have found a flight with room in the cabin, taken a train, or even checked into a hotel to recover before flying? Absolutely. And yet he chose to go to the nearest airport, ignore his pilot's duty, and wield his privilege to sit in the cockpit of the next flight out, where he had the opportunity to do harm, endangering the lives of 82 others who also wanted to return to their families. Even after fleeing the cockpit, Mr. Emerson attempted to do further harm and open a rear cabin door. I believe that any passenger behaving this way would be placed on a no-fly list. Joseph Emerson's behavior that day showed he lacks the judgment to be a pilot and should never be allowed anywhere near a flight deck again. My husband and I are lucky to be alive today, thanks to the actions of our incredible crew that day. They outnumbered Mr. Emerson and used their training and their wits to manage the unprecedented situation that night. But like each of us on that flight, they should never have been put in that situation. I have flown with more anxiety since that day, and I will continue to fly because I must, but I will never, ever feel as safe stepping onto an airplane. And no one should have to feel this way when solutions are within reach. So please make the right choice today. Choose to protect the millions of people who place themselves in the hands of pilots and the airlines every day. Please don't miss the opportunity to send a strong message that fuels real reform and does more to ensure the safety and the well-being of everyone who flies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Is anyone else on the WebEx who would like to speak up? Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Pickard.
Your Honor, I have a letter that was submitted from Christine Michelle Hackett, another victim in the case. She asked that I read this on her behalf. I am writing today as a former passenger of the October 22nd, 2023. I can unequivocally state that the events have forever changed my life. Going forward, I think to some degree I will always have trust issues associated with flying. For me, flying no longer offers a relaxing start to a vacation or holiday. Flying is simply a means to an end, which offers opportunities to work on life lessons of conquering fear and anxiety. I fly quite often and have found that I compensate for my personal insecurities by assessing the perceived condition of every member of the crew or flight attendants. While on the plane, I am always in a hyper state of vigilance, unable to rest, relax, or sleep. On October 22nd, 2023, I now view flying as an uncomfortable necessity, one that always poses some degree of personal challenge. I do not believe that anything positive can be achieved from incarcerating Mr. Emerson. I believe his actions were driven by his grief and mental health issues, further exacerbated by the influence of psychedelics. As previously served should be enough. The amount of financial restitution seems appropriate. The is reasonable. What I find concerning is the proposed amount of community service, 608 hours for each victim. It is true that no one was physically injured. The plane did not crash, and thankfully my experience losing both of their parents simultaneously. However, many individuals, myself included, were emotionally and psychologically impacted by this event. As a listed victim, when you see the impact to your life equivalized to 8 hours of community service, it really calls you to question the respective value of your life and experiences. What should be the value in hours associated with a lack of trust, anxiety, and having to emotionally revisit past events every time you step on a plane? I would urge the court to please consider ordering Mr. Emerson to meet his community service requirement by visiting 83 public schools to speak on the dangers and risks associated with the use of psychedelics, most notably mushrooms. Perhaps the scope of influence would be profound and would equate more with reaching a fair and equitable restitution for all parties involved. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Christine M. Hackett.
Thank you. Any other letters or?
No, Your Honor. The state would ask that the court follow the joint recommendation of the parties. And I'd also like to amend one portion of the PTO regarding contact with victims. Instead of accept letter of apology per PO, I would just have that say accept per PO. I know there are some victims that are hoping to meet with Mr. Emerson in person at some point. I wouldn't want a condition of probation to be a hindrance to that.
Okay, I can amend it to that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Horst.
Thank you, Judge. You've received the materials that we submitted and the letter that we submitted with them, so I won't repeat anything there, other than to just highlight the immense support that Mr. Emerson has, both personally and professionally, recovery. I want to say also that Mr. Emerson is a remarkable human being. I've never met somebody like him before. His or the decision that he made to get on that flight in the condition that he was in has been authentic and remarkable. As I think you're aware, he started a nonprofit called Clear Skies Ahead to draw attention to the issue of pilot mental health, and he's been working tirelessly to travel the country by bus, by personal car, not by plane, in order to speak. Along that line, I'd like to just ask permission, and there's for Mr. Emerson to travel to the HIMSS conference, or the HIMSS Recovery Conference, which is in Denver from September 13th to September 18th. HIMSS is a pilot-specific recovery program that he's would like to participate in. He has approval from the federal probation department.
Okay, you said Denver, right?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
The other thing I want to make sure that we address, and I think Mr. Emerson would like to say a few things too, he does live in California. I believe that it's contemplated by the offer that he be allowed to remain in California. He's going to certainly need to go through the interstate compact to get that final permission, but as that is pending, I would like the court to give him permission to reside in California with his family.
Okay. Mr. Emerson, what would you like to say?
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I want to say thank you to Christine, Stephen, and Allison for your words. They deeply impact me. I have learned in recovery that I have to be willing to go to any length to remain sober. And that is part of this process. I plead no contest. Because even though anybody, I still made the decision to take psilocybin, and that led to my inability to determine that I was operating in reality for an extended period of time. That doesn't make this right. What happened was wrong and should not have happened, and I bear the responsibility for that. Your words, Allison, and Stephen through Allison and Christine, will help me continue to live my life one day at a time, trying to progress and become better. I regret the harm that I caused. I regret the harm I caused to every single person on board that airplane, crew members and guests. I regret the harm I caused to society, which is part of what this process is about. This has affected people who were not on that airplane. I regret the harm I caused to my profession, the thing I gave my life to, and to those professional crew members each and every day who do fantastic work, especially to the 2 pilots up front who removed my hands and asked me to leave the flight deck, which I did. I am forever grateful to them and grateful to every guest on that airplane for listening to the instructions of the 2 flight attendant crew members in the back, because they saved my life. This difficult journey has made me a better father, a better husband, a better member of my community. And I lost external perspectives, everything I had ever worked for. But it's the greatest gift that I ever got. Because today I get to be the dad I was incapable of when I had to use alcohol to deal with life as life is. Today I intend not to use alcohol to deal with life as life is. And I'm grateful for that. I thank you for your time allowing me to address the court. I am more than happy to speak to as many schools as possible for the rest of my life. I will speak to pilots who suffer in silence. I will speak to people who think, as I did on October the 20th, that I had everything under control. But I was incapable of grasping that I needed help. I'm glad I have had the help today as a result of my actions. Thank you.
And it does appear that you have worked assiduously to bring light to the difficulties that pilots face by having to always be that person that can never be fallible. But we all are, as we know. And so strengthening those resources and supports that are available so that we can earn that trust and fulfill it, because it's a solemn duty of people who are in that position. So this is definitely regrettable that we're here. I can only imagine all of the terror that all of the passengers felt and continue to feel every time they step through that door in the jetway. So, but I do support this recommendation, and we'll go along with it. And on count 1, this is a sentencing grid block 8I. That grid block is by stipulation. The DNA blood draw does apply. This is a downward dispositional departure to probation, and it's an upward durational departure on the term of probation to 5 years. All of the general conditions apply. All of the special conditions that I read into the record apply. I'm not going to restate each and every one of them, but I will, our judgment forms, of course, have lots of tiny language, so I'll leave it to you to make sure that you review the judgment. If there's anything that you believe that we've missed in our written form, please let us know. But our intent is for the judgment to capture all of that in the judgment form. And we can attach the plea offer, but we can't necessarily incorporate it as a judgment. So the 6 months form of probation, that's going to be 50 days of jail. And that is going to be, I understand he has served that time. And so we'll note on the judgment that it is time served. I do recall that he served a significant period of time in custody. So the restitution is going to be on this count?
The restitution for Alaska Air Group can be associated with count 1, and the others can be with count 3 and 4.
Okay. So for count 1, the restitution will be $59,608.25, and I'm signing that restitution judgment. And did you want the 664 hours on this count? Or rather, should it be on each count? How did you want that tabulated?
Actually, the PTO contemplated that would be attached to count 2 only.
Okay,
Because my reasoning for that, Judge, is that community service hours can equate to days in jail, and I wanted to reserve all time for all of the other counts.
okay, got it. Okay, so I won't impose it on count 1. The restitution must be paid at a minimum of $1,000 per month, and I'm going to make Ms. Millam and Mr. Wang the primary restitution, and then Alaska after restitution to those individuals have been paid. But it should be at the rate of $1,000 per month. They should be paid within the first month. On counts 2 is suspend imposition of sentence. That is going to be 5 years probation conditions to count 1. And let's see, Ms. Millam is she count 2 or she count 3?
I believe that's count 3. The named victims for restitution, I gave count 3 and then count 4.
Okay, 3 and 4. So will be 164 hours of community service, and that will be done at a rate of 12 hours per month. And I understand there's a negotiation regarding where half of those hours can be. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor. The PTO contemplates that with the court's approval and then also with the probation officer's approval, that Mr. Emerson can complete up to half of those at his nonprofit. But
Clear sky.
the reason that language is there is because we expect he'll go through the interstate compact. He'll have somebody else watching over him more closely. They're going to be in a better position to determine a legitimate way for him to spend that community service time.
Okay. So 664 hours of community service attached to count 2. And that will be 332 of those hours may be done through Clear Skies Ahead. I think that the work in that program can go far to helping to rectify the harm caused. But that's going to be per PO because community service does need to be certain level of community service. So that's going to be per PO for the half amount. The rest of it can be done at a licensed nonprofit agency, another licensed nonprofit agency, also per PO. I'm going to note that, well, it's account one. I'm just going to go ahead and put that on count one, that you have permission to travel to the conference in Denver, September 13th through 18th. And you've already noted that the interstate compact does apply. And so you'll need to check in with the probation department today on the 4th floor to get reporting instructions for the interstate compact. So count two, I've already ordered the community service. We don't anticipate any, well, I'll waive any additional fees and assessments. So count three is going to be, so for each of the counts, 2 through 84, suspend imposition of sentence. All of the counts 3 through 84 are going to be concurrent conditions to count 1 and 2. Restitution to Yvonne Millam in the amount of $573. I'm signing that restitution judgment. Restitution to Anthony Wang in the amount of $387.88, and I'm signing that restitution judgment. Waive additional fines and any of the other counts so that money can be devoted to restitution. I think that takes care of everything. I'll take a closer look at the judgment to make sure we got all of the details.
Thank you, Your Honor.